Okay, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Hannah Cropeau, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Certiport. We're so happy to have all of you joining us for our third month of Intuit webinar today. Now, please note that this session is being recorded, so we'll be sending out a link to the recording after our presentation has wrapped this afternoon. If you have any questions, since all of our attendees are on mute, feel free to drop those into the chat or the Q&A feature, and we'll make sure to address those with Christina at the end of our presentation today. Now, today we are discussing how to teach entrepreneurship and problem-solving skills in the classroom, and we'll be learning from Christina Deibler. Christina currently teaches entrepreneurship and small business and project management to her business and technology students at her alma mater, Wakulla High School in Crawfordville, Florida. Prior to becoming a teacher, she was a business and human resource professional as a Florida State University graduate with a degree in business management. She recently chose to change her path and help empower students to reach their goals in life and turn dreams into reality by employing her background in business management and operations, as well as project management, to help students forge their own path ahead in life. We're so privileged to have Christina here as our presenter, as well as one of our certified ambassadors. So without further ado, I will go ahead and pass it over to you to get us started.
All right. Thanks so much, Hannah. Thank you for having me. Thank you all for attending this afternoon. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. So I am super excited to talk to you guys today about entrepreneurship and creative problem solving. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Hannah kind of introduced me. I work at Wakulla High School in Crawfordville, Florida. So if you are not familiar with where Crawfordville is, we are just south of Tallahassee on the coast. So it's a beautiful coastal community to live in, to work in. As Hannah mentioned, I graduated Wakulla High. We are a small one high school town. So I am really enjoying being back in the classroom, or being in the classroom and teaching. So this is my third year of teaching. And prior to that, as Hannah mentioned, my background is in business management, operations management, human resource management. And so these are the knowledge and background and skills that I bring to the classroom. I love helping empower my students with it. So let's touch on what I'm going to go over this afternoon. So I'm going to talk to you about entrepreneurship and why I think it is important to teach students these skills. I will then talk to you about problem solving and design thinking. And I will show you and tell you a little bit about how I implement these things in my classroom. And then we'll talk about certification. And then at the end, if you have any questions, we will cover them at that point. So as you think of questions, as I'm going through the information, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. And once I get to the end, Hannah will read those questions for me. So you don't have to hold your questions until the end. Definitely drop them in as they come up. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. So entrepreneurship and small business. Why do I want to teach this, or why do I feel this is important for our students to learn? So the first reason is really innovation and problem solving. Having good problem solving skills is critical, and it's something that students don't always know how to approach. And so really strengthening the skills and innovation and coming up with ways that they can solve problems is going to be helpful, I think, in all areas of their life. So skills to get them set up for success here. The second reason is creativity and creative thinking. So they continue to be one of the top skills that employers look for and are searching and seeking out in employees. And therefore, it's crucial. But also, again, these skills are going to carry over into every aspect of these students' lives. So wherever their education or profession takes them, these skills are going to be there to be helpful. And so learning about entrepreneurship and small business, we're going to be able to develop and practice those skills and really build that creative thinking muscle, per se. And the last reason is the future of work. So it's not any kind of surprise that technology is completely changing the way that we do business and the way that jobs look. Jobs already look completely different from what they did a couple years ago with remote work and our mass exodus, the Great Resignation. As you guys know, a lot of people are starting their own businesses, doing so from home, doing so remotely. And so I know that the pandemic really kind of increased that timeline. And so we are growing and changing even faster, I think, than what we probably would have. So jobs are changing, and these are skills that students are going to need in order to be successful. So let's talk about some business or some entrepreneurship statistics. So these are some numbers projected for this year, for 2022. So we know that almost all businesses are small businesses. So in fact, 99% of businesses are small, and the majority of those have 20 or less employees. So the chances are that our students are going to work for a small business or create their own are pretty high, as you can see. When asked, 6 out of 10 students, so 60% of students would like to open their own business one day. So the majority of young people right now want to really launch their own enterprise or their own business venture, and they don't want to work for someone else. So the majority of students are already thinking that they may be interested in opening their own business one day, which is amazing. I love that. 65% of businesses are profitable, and 40% of entrepreneurs actually plan to rebuild or expand this year. So a lot of growth happening, and half of all entrepreneurs plan to increase their staff this year. So this tells me that entrepreneurship is growing and businesses are growing. So this is not anything that's going to go away anytime soon. So when I introduced entrepreneurship into my classroom, I noticed that students were struggling with a few key areas, a few pretty big areas, actually, probably the most important areas of learning entrepreneurship. So students would get frozen about where to start. So when tasked with creating a new business idea, a new product, or a new service, the sky's the limit, and they have no way to narrow that down. And it's really hard to even know where to start to try to come up with an idea. So that's something that I realized we needed to solve. I also realized that students were not accurately defining the cause of their problem. So oftentimes students would look at a symptom of that root cause, and they would think that was the actual problem itself. And so treating symptoms obviously is not going to be the best way to solve a problem. So really being able to dig down and find out what that true root cause is for a problem is going to be the best way to solve it. And so I realized we also needed a way to work on that. And then the last thing is competitive advantage and innovation. So students were coming up with ideas. I was seeing a lot of the same ideas over and over. Sorry, it looked like it was muted. And so I was seeing the same products. They were coming up with the same ideas. They were recycling a lot of things that are already out on the market right now and calling it innovation. So this is my new idea. I'm going to just modify it just a little bit, and that's what we're going to go with, which is a fine place to start. However, I realized we really needed to learn how to come up with innovative ideas and really creative ideas to solve problems. And so we always have approached it from the perspective of solving a problem for a customer. So they struggled with identifying what their competitive advantage was as well. And so I would see over and over, my competitive advantage is that my prices are lower. So I want to say probably 80 or 90% of students felt like pricing was their competitive advantage, which we know wouldn't be sustainable. Is probably not the best model to use. So in trying to teach them how to approach those problems, I realized design thinking makes a whole lot of sense. Design thinking actually covers the process that I was trying to teach them without realizing that I was. So again, and this is my opinion, if you're doing entrepreneurship right, so if you're approaching it from the right perspective and you're going to create successful solutions for people, you really need to approach it in the same way as the design thinking process. So both entrepreneurship and design thinking should be people-centric and focused on humans and people and what their needs are. So at the core, we're always going to focus on that individual customer and try to solve a problem or meet a need for them. Both processes should be iterative. So we're not just going to create a one and done product and throw it out there and hope and pray that somebody buys it. We are going to refine it and improve it until we have it just right. Both of them are really a process to come up with innovative solutions. So to be successful, you need to come up with innovative ideas that can solve a problem that is not already being solved right now effectively, I guess. So design thinking really gives students a process to go through. So they didn't know where to start, but we can follow a process. They know exactly where to start and they know what to do each step of the way until they're finished. So teaching a process is really helpful from the perspective of giving them a launching and starting point to generate lots of ideas. And finally, I think that both using design thinking and getting in the mindset of design thinking, as well as an entrepreneurial mindset, both of those instances, you really have to redefine the way that you look at problems and at failure. And so traditionally, a problem is something that we see as negative. And so we may have a negative reaction or emotion whenever we realize that there's a problem. We might get stressed, maybe sometimes we go into fight or flight mode to try to figure out what to do. So as you start learning this design thinking process, what you will start to realize is that problems actually aren't a negative thing. They're a good thing that inspire change, but you'll start realizing that problems are a challenge. And so students will start getting excited about having a challenge that they can work on and that they can solve. And so a challenge is a lot more fun to approach than a problem. So instead of defining it as something negative, that's going to be an issue. Instead, we can see it as that opportunity to create something or to fix it or make it better, make that process better. And the same thing with failure. Most people fail. Once they fail, they stop. A lot of times people try to start their own businesses, but it doesn't just relate to in the business world. Starting something, it may not go to plan, and giving up, I think, is a common process. And so instead, we really have to get better at looking at failure as opportunities. And once you know how to approach them and how to address them, you'll start naturally seeing them that way. And so maybe you start a business and it fails after a year or two. Once you launch your second business or your second idea, you're not starting from square one. We're not going all the way back to the beginning, because if you're doing what you should be, you're reflecting and you're learning and you're taking all those lessons with you. So instead of starting way down here, we're going to be starting at a much higher launching point. So failure is going to inspire positive change. If we didn't have issues and if we didn't fail at things, we would never change things, right? So failure obviously is a driver to change. And so starting to look at that as a launching point or a starting point is going to be helpful. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as I get into it. So I keep saying into it, and we're talking about Intuit. So let me back up for a second and talk about what design thinking actually is. So if you are not familiar with the principle of design thinking, essentially, as you've probably gathered from what I've said so far, it is a people-centered approach to creative problem solving. It's something that will give you and your students hands-on experience to quickly solve problems that are very complex in nature, and that may seem difficult to solve. And the last thing is that it's a simple process. So like I said, for the students, knowing where to jump in, knowing how to get started, knowing what to do next is critical. And so the traditional design thinking process is a set of 5 steps. Intuit, in their program, they have condensed that down into 3 steps. So I think they've simplified it a little bit, and it's essentially still the same process. It's just simplified. And I think that, honestly, I think this is easier for students to understand and follow, because it's just 3 steps. And so those steps are going to start with deep customer empathy. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time getting to know our customer up front and really trying to understand their process. and the things that they struggle with. So we are going to not only talk to our customers and interview them and get feedback and information, we are actually going to shadow them and gather as much information as we can so that we can see the pain points that they have throughout their day or throughout the process that we're trying to help with. And so that's where it starts, and that's where a lot of our focus is going to be. So we are going to really figure out the root cause of what the individual or the customer is struggling with, whether that's a group of people or what have you. So once we understand what the problem is, then we're going to start getting creative. And so I really love this part in the process. This is my favorite step, because students are creative, but a lot of times they feel like they aren't. And so again, it's hard to get started and try to think of ideas. So the second step is to go broad to go narrow. So the idea is to generate as many ideas as you possibly can so that you have a good selection to choose from when you narrow it down to the best possible solution. And so the idea here is you're going to write down anything that comes to mind as you're trying to brainstorm for ideas. So you're going to really be creative in brainstorming. You're going to capture everything, regardless of how crazy it sounds or how improbable it may be, how expensive it might sound, whatever those things that we tend to limit ourselves with, we're going to try to forget them. And we're going to write down anything that pops into our mind. And the reason for that is it's going to inspire more ideas, and coming up with something that is just totally crazy. First of all, you may figure out that you can actually do that thing. And secondly, you might be able to figure out a solution in a similar vein that is going to be more practical to implement. So you're going to try to come up with as many ideas as possible. And so doing this in a group is even better. So if they're on a team, they're working on a team, all of the ideas that everybody shares are going to inspire ideas for everyone else on the team. So it really impacts the process quite a bit. And so we're going to have a whole lot of ideas to choose from, and we're going to find the best possible solution. And then what we're going to do is we are going to experiment with customers. So rather than taking time to spend money to create and produce a product, getting it to the stores, getting it on the shelves, and then again, just hoping and praying that somebody likes what we created, we aren't going to do that. We are going to do some pretty quick testing. We're going to make a prototype. We are going to allow our customer to try out that prototype, and we are going to try to shadow them or get feedback from them on how they felt it went. And so this allows us to get feedback quickly, and then we are not going to stop there. So we may implement those choices or that feedback. But what we're going to do is we're going to start the process over. And so, like I said, it's an iterative process. So you're going to kind of keep going through that cycle until you get it right. So as we get feedback from the customers, we are going to try to decide what we can do to change our design, or we might want to go with one of our other designs to make it fit that need. But again, we're going to prototype it, we're going to have them test it out, and we're going to get feedback. And so we'll do that as many times as we need to until we have a product just right, or a service, or whatever our design solution is. And so again, it's just a really simple 3-step process that you can repeat over and over, and you are going to really come up with such a better, more creative solution that is really going to speak to what the customer needs at that time. So how do I implement these things in my classroom? I'm so glad that you guys asked. I'm going to tell you. So we're going to talk about curriculum. I use as much project-based learning as I possibly can. So as often as I can get their hands on an activity or something that they can relate the concepts to, I'm going to do that. So I use a lot of activities and challenges in my classroom as often as I can. And then we'll talk about certification as well. So I think certification really kind of closes the loop and enforces everything that we've been learning so that they can, so we'll talk about why it's important actually in a minute. Okay. So Certiport has all of these options that I'm going to talk to you guys about. I don't know what happened to my LearnKey image. So I used LearnKey last year. LearnKey has quite a few different curriculums. If you have not used it before, it's very simple to use. Everything is loaded in Gmetrics. It's a really nice, easy, organized process to implement. And LearnKey has 2 versions of ESB right now. I think the original version is going to get phased out, but they have both version 1 and 2 that align with the objectives for the certification exam. This year, I am using the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship curriculum for entrepreneurship. And so I am so excited about this curriculum, you guys. I cannot wait to get my students in here and start playing around because they are going to absolutely love it. I could probably do an entire webinar on this one tool. I love it so much. And I know that the students are going to as well. So Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, or NIFTY, I might refer to it as NIFTY, they have done a really stand-up job of creating a curriculum that's broken down into bite-sized pieces. So there's a little bit of information, and then you'll have things to reinforce it. So there's written videos, and then all different types of activities, small knowledge checks, like a few questions here and there periodically. And so it's really broken down into small pieces. There are all kinds of different activities and graphic designers and drag and drops and all kinds of things. So that is a fabulous program. Definitely check it out if you're looking for curriculum to teach entrepreneurship in your classroom. And then Intuit has a wonderful their program for Design for Delight. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple different ways where you can get this curriculum for free. So right now, Intuit has it for free actually on their website, the foundations for Design for Delight. So you can access it that way. And I'll talk to you about a couple other ways in just a second. So let's talk about some of the classroom activities that I like to implement. So from the very beginning of school, from week 1, we are doing activities. We're working together. I'm throwing them in teams with people they don't know and giving them design challenges. So this picture was from the first week of school, and that was their first design challenge. And so the students had a whole lot of fun. They really got to know each other a little bit better and get a taste of the design process. Using fictitious businesses is probably my favorite way to teach entrepreneurship. I like to have the students create a business idea very early on so that as we learn concepts, they can adjust and edit their idea and customize it. And so I will have them create an idea before we get started. So before they start learning all the basics of entrepreneurship, they're going to come up with their business idea. And then as we learn the basics, I will challenge them to see if they want to change that in any way. Maybe they want to start over. Maybe they just want to make some adjustments as they learn more and more. They will then they will work as pairs. So I'm going to have them team up and come up with a business idea as a partnership, as well as eventually we're going to move into bigger teams that they're going to have to work with to come up with a business idea. And so again, where it really is going to give them something to relate the material to. So 14-year-olds have a hard time understanding a lot of business concepts. They haven't seen or had much experience with these things. So creating a fictitious business is a good way to help them understand and have something to relate it to. The backpack challenge. So some of you guys, I'm sure, have heard of the backpack challenge. If you haven't, you potentially have heard of the wallet challenge. I think that it actually originated at Stanford. I got the backpack challenge from teachingentrpreneurship.org. So that's another good resource. They have a few different free lesson plans on entrepreneurship and also design thinking. And this particular challenge combines the two. And so this is how I chose to introduce design thinking to my students. So we recently completed this backpack challenge. And how it worked is the initial task that I gave the students is to create a backpack and make a list of things that they feel would be important to have in their design. So they got to pick some of their favorite features for a backpack and they designed a backpack. And that was the end of the actual design process. So we went through just a traditional design. I told them what to design and they did it. They Then we started over. They worked with a partner and they got feedback on their partner from something their partner struggles with in school. And so this is when we implemented the design thinking process. And so they were able to go through the process to get to know their partner, get to know a little bit about their problem, and try to see if they can figure out what the cause of the problem was. And then they had to sketch out 5 different ideas and go back to their partner and get feedback and narrow those ideas down to one that they ultimately developed. And so in the end, they're comparing the products that their partner designed for them. And they're going to really decide if they liked their partner's backpack design better, or if they liked the specific solution that was designed for them to meet a need that they have currently. So of course, almost everyone chose that individual process. And so this is a wonderful way to introduce design thinking as well as entrepreneurship into the classroom. So we had a lot of fun with that challenge. Another thing I like to do is bring Shark Tank into my classroom. So we watched our first episode of Shark Tank the other day in class. I showed them a children's episode. So it was all students and kids, so teenagers and kids who came up with business ideas. So they got to see other young people and their ideas and their pitches and everything. So what we'll do is we'll watch the episode and then we will reflect on it. So we haven't actually gotten into the entrepreneurship principles yet. So I love to just feel them out and see how much they can figure out and they can pick up. So we had some great discussion about it. I had them choose their favorite pitch and product and just really reflect on it to kind of get to start thinking about that process. So there are lots of different ways that you can use Shark Tank. I'll continue to show episodes and we may just watch one pitch. And when we're learning about pitches, we definitely will watch lots of pitches and they will analyze those pitches and they will start to really listen to what the shark's feedback is for the different pitches and design ideas. And so Shark Tank is fun. So I will use it multiple different ways throughout the school year. And it's also just something fun. Sometimes it's nice to say, hey, just relax and just watch this and then let's talk about it later, especially when we've been working really hard on quite a bit of things. So it's fun. The students get excited about it and they enjoy it. So why not, right? And Scholastic actually has some free worksheets and resources for teaching lessons. I think there may be some lesson plans as well. So you can check the Scholastic website if you want some supplemental material to go with showing Shark Tank episodes. So I'm going to continue with my Shark Tank theme as we start talking about competitions. So you can ask Hannah how much I love competitions because I'm constantly bugging her and Certiport about having an entrepreneurship competition. So no worries. We have lots and lots of ways that we can actually compete. And so, I mean, I will implement things like Fun Friday, and maybe it's just some sort of Kahoot or trivia or something like that, that I can quiz students and kind of compete, have them get in competitive mode. They tend to really get excited and everyone's engaged. Even the students who aren't super competitive tend to be really engaged when we have lessons that are competitive. So everyone tends to participate and have fun. So Shark Tank in my classroom is a lot of fun. At the end of the year, we will have a Shark Tank competition. And so this will be after they have been working on their ideas for quite a while. They will pitch as a group. So these students will pitch their ideas, and then the student groups are going to also act as the sharks. And so they will decide which companies they want to invest in. And so allowing the peers to judge them is kind of fun and it's helpful too. So bringing Shark Tank into the classroom is really quite a lot of fun. So it's one of the things I look forward to the most. There are some really amazing external challenges out there. So I'm going to talk to you about 2 different ones. So NIFTY, or Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, has a great social innovation challenge. So they have, the way it works is students will join and they can choose from 16 different areas of social need that they can choose from to work on. So students will choose the cause that their project will be directed towards. And if they sign up for this challenge, they also will get access to the Intuit Design for Delight materials for free. So they have resources and workbooks and such on their website. So I haven't decided yet if we are going to enter this as a class. All of my students are registered for this Intuit Social Innovation Challenge that I'm about to get into. And the timeline is such that we may be able to compete in this one as well. But I think what I'm going to do is encourage them to compete if they would like to. So for both of these challenges, you, as the teacher, you don't have to host it. You don't have to implement it in your classroom. They can join on their own and compete if they would like to. So I have my students join the Intuit Social Innovation Challenge. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what that is. I really liked this one. I'll tell you what the topic is, but I want to go ahead and point out, just so I don't forget, that this course also includes free materials to teach Design for Delight. So it's an online resource that you can use self-paced. So the students can complete it all online at their own pace. Or they also have a teacher toolkit, which includes a slide deck, and has lesson plans and things like that, the workbook and the worksheets, as well as some, I think there are some brainstorming cards and a couple other things. So I'm going to guide them through the process. So we're going to learn about it together and they'll work on it individually as well. But there are a bunch of worksheets. So I will actually print them for them so they can sketch out things and draw. Because I teach technology, we are quite often working on the computers. So they're working on the computers all the time. So I like to get hands-on experience and activities when we can. And when they're designing, drawing out seems to work a little bit better. So, so let's talk about what this Social Innovation Challenge is. So Intuit realized that there is a problem with obtaining resources and especially funding for some underrepresented groups of people. And so here are the facts or the numbers. So in 2020, only 2.3% of all venture capital were received by all women companies. So only 2.3% of billions of dollars, over $1 billion went to women. Only 1.2% of the 147 billion raised in the first half of 2021 went to Black founders, only 1.2%. 90% of Latin entrepreneurs say that they struggle to access support that they need for funding and other support to create and grow their businesses. And there could be as many as 10 times more LGBTQ entrepreneurs if they had equal access. So the challenge for students is to try to find a solution for this problem to help make sure that everybody has equitable opportunities to start businesses. And I just love the purpose of it. And I love that the students will be working on these ideas and developing them on their own. So as far as how to join the challenge, I'll post some links in the chat at the end. Once I finish, I'll post a couple of these links of resources that I'm talking about. So I'll give you the link, but you can also just search for Intuit Social Innovation Challenge 2022 and sign up by September 26th. So they extended the deadline. I'm very excited. It was initially September 15th. So you have a little bit of time, but not a whole lot of time. So if you guys are interested in it, you can, I don't know a whole lot about it. It's the first time that we are going to compete. So I am in the same places with you as far as information, but there are the official rules and everything's online. You can see the teacher toolkit and the different materials that you have access to, as well as how it will work. So the students will put together a team of 2 to 8 students. I allow them to choose their own teams and their own team size. Intuit recommends 5 to 8 students, which I recommended to them. And ultimately, across all my classes, we wound up with teams of 3 to 6. So then again, you'll have access to, the students will have access to the self-paced Design for Delight Foundations course. So they'll be working on that, and then they will submit the first round on October 12th. And so the competition will continue through, I think about November 14th or 15th is when they're going to announce the finalist winners. So there are some amazing prizes included. So everyone for participating is going to get a voucher to take the Design for Delight certification exam. So that's a $100 value, and it will allow the student to take the exam twice, up to 2 times. So that is a wonderful value for a free program, as well as the curriculum. Those who advance to the regional competition. So the regional winners are going to, advance to the final competition, the final round. They're going to get some prizes. They're going to get money to help develop their prototype for their idea. And they're also going to be paired with a mentor from Intuit that's going to help them with the challenge. So I think that that's amazing. The value of what they're going to learn through this process, especially paired with a mentor like that, is amazing. And so there are prizes of $2,000 to $5,000 in educational scholarships for the top 3 teams for each student on the team. So some pretty good prizes there. And again, one of the best values, I think, is the curriculum for design thinking and the voucher certification voucher. So let's talk a little bit about certifications. So your students can actually get certified in design thinking. It's called Intuit Design for Delight Innovator. And the certification for entrepreneurship and small business is also available. These are both available through Certiport. They are in G-Metrics, and the courses and the tests were both pretty great, I have to say. So once students pass that certification exam, they're going to obviously get a certificate, and they're going to get this digital badge as well. So they will get a badge for entrepreneurship and small business as they pass that certification, and then they will get one for Design for Delight Innovator. At least this is what my class is doing this year. And automatically, if they get the 2 of those certifications, they're going to get an additional credential that is Master of Entrepreneurship and Small Business. So I thought that that was pretty cool that Certiport recognizes the value of the combination of the 2 of them. And so this will be even more valuable for students to include on their LinkedIn and their resume and so on. So I am almost finished. I'm just going to tell you why I feel certification is valuable. And then I will take any questions you guys have. So I really think that certification is valuable to everyone. It's valuable to the student. It's valuable to the person that may potentially hire the student in the future. So the hiring managers, it's important to them, and it's important to our community. And so the reason, probably the biggest reason that I think it's helpful for students is confidence. So they feel good about their skills. They know they've taken that test and they've passed that test. And we've celebrated all the milestones on the way, of course. So they feel good and they feel like they're capable. And so it really empowers students to take a risk and follow their dreams and try to build something that they want that's interesting to them, rather than just go down a guided path that that maybe their parents did or whatever is expected of them. So it really gives students empowerment, I think, and confidence. It also inspires confidence in the hiring managers. So I have worked with a lot of hiring managers. I've sat on countless interview committees and hired so many people, and hiring managers are really concerned about whether the skills listed on a resume are actually skills that the person has. And so that can be kind of hard to test. You can do skills tests, but oftentimes you're not going to find that out until months down the road, after you've invested quite a bit of time and money in that individual. So hiring managers know that the student learned it and they were tested on those concepts. So they understand that it's really valuable. And whether or not a student plans to open their own business, having this entrepreneurship credential is going to help them, or just going through the process. They're going to understand how small businesses work. And since that's almost all companies, that's going to be valuable. So regardless of what field they go in, regardless of what level, understanding the ins and outs of how a business operates is going to be valuable to your employer. So, and then the community is going to benefit by having young people create new businesses. And so if we're looking at the numbers and the data, it's going to continue to grow and grow. And so I think we should be encouraging this and equipping the students with these skills early on. So that is all that I have planned to cover. So if you guys have any questions, I can start talking about them now. I put my QR code up here. So if you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's a great way to connect, and feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about anything that I've covered today, or maybe anything that I haven't related to this topic. I encourage you to reach out and let me know.
Thank you so much, Christina. We've really appreciated you sharing your thoughts and your expertise with us. We've had a couple through. The first being, how do you get students excited about entrepreneurship, particularly those who may not see themselves as being future business owners, or those who are going to be entrepreneurs in the future?
So I really like to use activities and competitions to get them excited. And so that's really the way that I kind of amp them up. I also like to make a big deal about all of every small milestone that they reach. I will over celebrate, but I do start out by talking about how important these skills are across all industries. So I make sure I get feedback first on what it is that they're interested in doing before we start talking about it. And then I will relate what they're going to learn to that industry. So we can talk about how it applies to the construction industry and different trades. We can talk about cosmetology and how most cosmetologists are operating their own business on some level. And all of a sudden, now I have seniors who are graduating who are like, we want to take your entrepreneurship class. We want to get this certification. Can we come back and do it in the summer, even though we're graduating? And a couple of them want to be cosmetologists. So I do my best to try to find ways to relate it to what they're interested in. And so I think that coming up with those fictitious businesses really kind of does that same thing. So they're going to create a business idea of something that they're excited about or that they're interested in. And so learning the principles and applying them to that idea or that thought or industry is going to be helpful to them. So that gets them more excited. And then the competitions and, prizes and whatever else have you. So bragging rights go for quite a bit of weight, I think, in my classroom. So.
I love that. We have a couple questions more logistically focused. So you've talked about a couple different certifications, the entrepreneurship and small business, and then the Intuit Design for Delight certification. At what point in the course do you offer those certifications or those final exams, or do you deliver those throughout the semester? How do you structure your curriculum?
Okay, that's a great question. And I feel like, I know there are some people from Florida on here, so you may be able to relate and feel me. But I think that we're in a little bit of a unique situation. So I teach entrepreneurship through my digital information technology class. So we are learning how to use computers. We're learning about all the parts of computers. We learn how to type. We learn how to use all the Microsoft products. And then we learn about entrepreneurship. So what I like to do is kind of ping pong back and forth. So we started with some of the basic technology stuff. We are working on design thinking now. So creativity and innovation, we're working on these things. And so the students' first semester will be able to test and certify in design thinking. So first half of the year, we're certifying in design thinking. And all along the way, we are learning different technological tools and steps. So we are going to work on Microsoft Word next. And so as we start learning entrepreneurship, we're going to be using Microsoft Word to create business documents and so on. We will learn about Outlook, and we will learn how to send professional correspondence and they're going to have a pitch. So they're going to learn how to use PowerPoint and put together a pitch deck. And so I like to teach the tool and then implement it in as many real world scenarios as possible. So I just apply it as we would in the business world. And so we will start learning entrepreneurship fairly soon after we finish design thinking, and we will certify in that towards the end of next semester. So they'll have the opportunity to earn one certification per semester. And as a little extra incentive, I allow them to exempt from their semester exam if they pass the certification. So I like to try to align it with the end of the semester if I can. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Walking away with multiple credentials. I think that that's an awesome, awesome way to have students finish up the class. So we have a question from Valerie. Her course is dedicated to hospitality entrepreneurship.
All
Do you
right.
know if the NIFTY certificate or the NIFTY curriculum can be easily modified toward just that industry, or is it pre-made with other industry examples?
Absolutely. So the NIFTY certification or the NIFTY curriculum will work regardless of field that you're in. So it will work wonderfully for hospitality. So it's so great. I just can't even. I recently got access to it, so I'm really excited about it. But they even have design thinking built in, and I didn't realize that when we ordered it. So I got really excited when I saw that. But design thinking is even built in. So they have really thought of everything. And so what you will do is you'll start out with your business plan, your business idea, so you can have your students working on hospitality related ideas. And so initially they're going to learn, or pretty early on, they'll learn about a lean business, a lean canvas business model and how to create it. And then the lesson, each lesson will kind of tie back to that and come back to that and circle around to it. And so you can really plug anything into that and work on it throughout the entire curriculum. And it continues to circle back and reinforce those ideas. So I think it would be great for hospitality.
Awesome. So another question that came through is, are you connected with your community to bring in entrepreneurs or business leaders from outside of the classroom into the classroom to introduce your students to real world exampents? And how do you do that?
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good question too. So that's what I've actually been working on pretty hard here recently. I went to an incredible event over the weekend that was designed to help young people with career advice and quite a bit of entrepreneurship advice as well. So I made some wonderful business contacts, and I have made some contacts with business owners in some of those underrepresented groups that we talked about that are going to come in and talk to my class so that they can give their own perspective and kind of give a personal touch on that. But yes, connecting with local businesses is a fabulous way to get the students excited. It's something different. They get tired of listening to me talk, and it gives more credibility as well as than just my experiences. So there are so many ways, and I have so many ideas and things that I want to implement, and getting involved with the community, working with them, seeing if we can get small businesses to sponsor, maybe entrepreneurs to mentor students and help them develop their own business ideas, and potentially launch. Some of them are already operating businesses in high school. So
I love that. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to start that connection. I like the idea of the mentorship because I think that strengthens a connection outside of just coming in and having a Q&A session. I think that there's a lot of value with that. Another question came in from Karen. She said, for the Intuit Social Innovation Challenge, have your students started work on this yet? Is it realistic to think that they will have something ready to submit by October 12th? So what do they need to do?
Yeah, okay. So the challenge actually does not launch until October 3rd. So it's a quick turnaround, and they really shouldn't be working on the project yet. So I have just started introducing the design thinking principles. And so we're going to learn the design thinking process first as we go. So as we go into it, they will understand what that process looks like so that they can start focusing on their solutions. So I think that they have to have their idea by October 12th. And so I think it's a 3 or 4 minute video that they're going to talk about their solution idea. So really that's all they have to do is come up with the idea. And then the second round, they'll have a little bit longer And they'll have a mentor and they'll have some resources to try to develop that prototype. So I think the deadline for that is November 9th. So they may have, it's still a few weeks, maybe 3 weeks or so, to complete it and submit it. But I definitely think that they can do it. I found that whatever I challenge them to do, they tend to rise to that challenge. So they can do a lot more than what it seems like in my experience anyway.
And just for clarification details for those who maybe haven't heard too much about this, I dropped it into the chat earlier, but I'll drop a link for this previous session and for our sessions coming up next week as well. So we had a member of our team, our counterpart at Intuit, come in a couple weeks ago and talk about the Intuit Social Innovation Challenge. And he gave all the details for what needs to be done according to which deadline. So if this is something you're interested in for your students, I would recommend checking out that link, and the full recording is available on our YouTube page as well. Last question for you, Christina, is can you make this PowerPoint available for us to refer to later on?
Of course I can. Hannah, what do you think what's the easiest way to do that?
If you could send it over to me, we'll make sure to send that up through the email with the follow-up with the recording and all of the information kind of in one place. I think that would probably be the best way to do that.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Christina, that you want to share with everyone before we close out?
No, I think just get excited, have fun with it, try to find ways to enjoy it yourself and to have fun, and the students are going to have fun too. So, and design thinking can be implemented. It makes so much sense for project management and all kinds of other topics, IT, or any kind of design industry. So check it out, even if you are not teaching entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us. We're so grateful that you were able to take the time to be with us, both to Christina and to our attendees this afternoon. We'll make sure to send you the link to the recording as well as Christina's slides and information that she shared today. Just to call out that we do have one more session for Month of Intuit that's happening next week to review our new Intuit bookkeeping certification. So please feel free to join us for that. We're looking forward to having you all back next week. And if you have any other questions, feel free to respond back to us. We can get you in touch with Christina or a member of our Certiport team to help you out. So thank you so much, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon.